Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, where today we're going to be continuing Dragon Ball World's Strongest. What if Wonder Woman was in Dragon Ball Part 3? But as always, if you are new to the channel or if you're a fan and enjoy everything that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that's to come out now and in the future. In our last video, where we left off, both Goku and Diana managed to work together to defeat the Demon King Piccolo. But there would still be a new threat to the Earth in the form of his offspring, Piccolo Jr. Now with 3 years to prepare, both Goku and Diana trained together, honing their skills for the upcoming 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. But there's also other developments in their relationship that come soon after. What will the results of these new discoveries be, as both of our heroes train in preparation for the upcoming event? And also, how will the outcome of this tournament shape the Dragon Ball world? For all this and more, stay tuned as we now continue Dragon Ball World's Strongest. What if Wonder Woman was in Dragon Ball? Part 3. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And so, 3 years would pass following the battle with the Demon King Piccolo. For Goku and for Diana, the two of them had been given a special privilege to train with the Guardian of Earth, Kami, the being who was the brother of Demon King Piccolo. Training not only for the upcoming World Martial Arts Tournament, the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, but also in preparation for the return of King Piccolo's final offspring, Piccolo Jr. For Goku and Diana, the two would train on the lookout for the next 3 years. Thankfully, all of their friends and important loved ones were aware of where they were and what they were doing. So for the most part, they were able to train knowing that the others wouldn't have to worry about them. And thankfully, Kami was able to restore the Dragon Balls and bring back all of those who had died during King Piccolo's rampage. Over the next 3 years, the relationship between both Diana and Goku would change in numerous ways. For starters, in terms of their training and overall power, the main difference between the two of them was how they perceived and used ki energy. For Goku, he was trained and taught how to use ki in areas such as increasing his own strength, as well as using blast and attacks. Whereas Diana had used ki to increase and augment her physical strength, such as in the case of having the ability to fly or run super fast. She had never learned how to harness her ki to use different types of attacks in that nature, and it was something that definitely took some getting used to. Although with help from Goku and from Kami, she was able to tap into that side of herself, allowing her to be able to gain access to using ki in order to fire off blasts and different things of that nature. Of course though, she didn't have a signature attack, and that was one she wanted to come up with. Sure, the easiest thing to do would have been to learn the Kamehameha wave from Goku, but Diana was someone who had some pride in her, and she wanted to come up with an attack of her own. That was when she came up with an idea. Very similar to a move that you might be familiar with from a character known as Guile from Street Fighter. Diana would take her arms and cross them together. As the bracelets would connect, forming an X-like shape with her arms, Diana would focus her ki before releasing her arms in a slashing motion, thus giving off an slash-like ki attack. Although what she would call it, she honestly had no idea. But she could feel that the more she stored ki into her arms and then released it, the stronger the cutting attack became. Eventually, she had to come up with something, and she called it the Amazon Slash. It was powerful enough to the point where when she fired it with Goku's Kamehameha, the two would be managing to cancel each other out every time they collided. But of course, in overall, when it came to using ki, Goku had the upper hand. But Diana had the upper hand in a different regard, and that was in terms of melee combat. With the use of her sword and imbuing it with her own ki, Diana demonstrated how her mastery over the weapon was second to none. Even Goku, fighting with his power pole, would have a hard time defending against Diana and her sword. So much so to the point where Goku's power pole would be knocked out of his hand more times than not. But even though Goku didn't really prefer to fight with a weapon all the time, it still made for some good combat training, as he was able to pick up more and more useful skills when fighting with handheld weapons. And for Diana, she learned more when it came to controlling and using ki. All in all, there would be changes during the 3 years. For one, in terms of their overall power, pre-training, Diana had a power level of around 300. After the 3 years worth of training, Kami introduced to them the idea of using weighted clothing or other weights to help increase their power. For Goku, he gave him the weighted clothes that he wore under his gi. But for Diana, she gave the use of her bracelets to Kami, imbuing them with a mystic enchantment. Thus, as long as she wore and trained with her bracelets, it would help increase her overall strength. And when she removed them, it would release that stored power, similar to Goku and his weighted clothing. All in all, for Goku, with his weights, he had a power level of around 330. But without the weights, he reached an even 400. With her bracelets, Diana had a power level of around 340, and without them, she reached a power of around 410. She had the slight advantage over Goku, but that was mainly due to her physiology. Keep in mind, the Amazons aren't human. They are creations of the Supreme Kai, the former Supreme Kai, who was a female, and who wanted to give a gift to the earth in the form of the Amazons. However, of all of the Amazonians that ever existed, Diana was the first one who was truly training and taking her power to the next level. You see, even amongst the strongest of them, including Diana's own mother, there wasn't really much that they could do in terms of making gains, mainly because the way they trained and fought and how they used ki, it never allowed them to advance but to a certain extent. And as the Amazons in nature were a more peaceful race, and that they only used fighting as a form of self-defense, they never really pushed to power levels to anything that was all too high. Even the queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta herself, had a power level of around 320, and that was currently where she was, meaning that her own daughter in just 3 years' time had actually managed to surpass her, and having a training partner like Goku only helped to speed up the process. But their relationship changed in another way. You see, the two of them only having each other for those 3 years, it caused them to grow closer. Now, I'm not saying that Goku suddenly became all interested in girls. No, this is still our same fun-loving Goku. But I like to think that Goku isn't too blind when it comes to knowing what he likes and what he doesn't like. It's not that Diana was a fighting-obsessed warrior, but she did have a warrior spirit. She always had the desire for competition and to be the best. And unlike certain individuals, she was never against fighting. Of course, she also wanted to gain her own knowledge and her own understanding of the world. So, while they were training with Kami, while Goku focused more on the physical aspects of training, Diana focused on the educational portion as well. And when you're training with the Guardian of Earth, essentially God, there's a lot of knowledge and experience that one can gain. As a result, Diana, in terms of her intelligence, would also take a major leap forward. She wanted to grow in knowledge and in different ways, but she wasn't so rigorous about it. She didn't believe that there was only one way to go in life. She was fully aware of what Goku was and who he was. Goku was a much more simpler boy, a boy that was raised in nature, who was attuned to it, and she had grown very fond of him because of it. Even if he didn't have the necessary smarts, that didn't really matter to her. In the end, the only thing that mattered was how she felt. And for Goku, that was in a similar way. Goku thought more and more about that marriage thing that he had learned about from Diana. About how he remembered he had promised it to Chi-Chi, but the more he thought about it, he didn't really have a reason to. Not that Chi-Chi was a bad person, not by any means, but at the same time, he thought about it over and over again. He couldn't really see himself living with her. He didn't really know anything about her. But he had spent 3 years with Diana essentially, and he had come to learn a lot more about her. He learned about what she liked and what she didn't like. The two of them got closer when it came to training, and Goku appreciated having someone who was strong and capable. And even though he wouldn't know it at the time, Goku came from a certain race of people who actually enjoyed having a strong female companion. Their relationship wasn't something in the sense of one day they simply settled down, they talked about their feelings, and they just decided they were going to be together. It was just something that happened naturally. It was something that neither one of them had to comment on. It was just something that they kind of knew. Of course, they were probably going to have to talk about it someday. And Diana, now fully understanding Goku to an extent, she figured she'd have to make the first move eventually. But she decided she'd do it after the tournament. Instead, she actually made a bet. Just while they were training one day, they would finish sparring as Diana asked Goku what he would want if he won the tournament. I hadn't really thought about it, Diana. I guess I want a big meal because I know I'd be hungry. I understand that. But really, if you could ask me of anything after you won this tournament, what would it be? I don't know. What would you ask for? I can't tell you. Aw, why? Is it food related? No, Goku, it's not food related. Oh, well, is it something you want in particular? Maybe. But tell you what, if I win, you have to fulfill my request. Okay. Can I say no? Yes, you have that choice. I simply want to ask you something when I win. Alright. And if I win, you have to tell me. It's a deal. You could say that this was a roundabout way of trying to get to where they wanted to be. One way or another, they were going to learn of what the person had wanted. This was just a fun way of getting to that. Eventually, the 3 years would pass, and the time for the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai would be underway. Bulma, Roshi, Oolong, Krillin, and Yamcha, as well as Hippolyta, would all be gathered together for the upcoming tournament. They were looking around wondering where Goku and where Diana were going to be. only to run into them in the rain similarly and almost not recognizing them at first, as they had changed in a lot of ways. They had grown, their bodies had filled out, and they seemed they had put in a lot of work when it came to their training. But Bulma noticed that they were a lot closer. Maybe not relationship close, but there was something there. Also, their outfits, while updated, had changed a little bit. For Goku, he wore his standard turtle hermit gi, and that was all around the same. But for Diana, her outfit had changed also, different from the one she wore when she were younger. The outfit she wore, for those of you wondering, would pretty much be like the one that you see Wonder Woman wear in the movies, as the outfit she wore as a child was a lot similar to the outfit she wore in the Justice League animated series. It was updated and a lot more in tune with the modern times. She still brandished her sword on her back, even though she knew she wasn't going to use it, as weapons weren't allowed. But Hippolyta, happy to see her daughter, would give her a hug, as well as bring her a gift, that being her iconic shield. Of course, she knew that the weapon still wouldn't be allowed, but it was still a gift that she had wanted to pass down to her daughter for a while, as the shield and the sword went hand in hand. And Diana still kept the lasso of truth wrapped around her waist. Everyone was still trying to catch up, to learn about what they had done over the last 3 years. Even more so, they had also seen that Krillin and Yamcha had been keeping up their training as well. They had also run into Tien Shinhan, who would actually move and bow to Diana, thanking her for the fight from 3 years ago, and he hoped that they could meet again in the tournament. And there was also another girl there, one that wasn't too particularly pleased with Goku being close and friendly with someone else. All in all, they would still have to go through the qualifiers as they did in the original, only now a few more people weren't going to make it. For one, Tien's fight with mercenary Tao would take place in the preliminaries, and Tien would make peace with himself after defeating his former master. Other than that though, the tournament brackets would fill out for the final 8. It would be in the first round, Goku versus Tien. Wonder Woman, the alias for Diana, versus Chi-Chi. Piccolo Jr. versus Krillin. And the man known as Hero, aka Kami in disguise, versus Yamcha. The first round was a lot more intense than many would be expecting. The first match would see Goku versus Tien. Now, similar to the original timeline, this fight would play out almost exactly the same. Only this time around, Goku and Tien, this would be their first interaction with one another in terms of combat. Remember, in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, it was Diana, aka Wonder Woman, that beat Tien in the semi-finals before advancing to the finals to face Goku, where she eventually won. This time around though, Goku and Tien would get to have their fight, so everything would be relatively new and fresh, and Tien with his various techniques would actually catch Goku off guard a bit. Although, just like before, Goku would eventually get the win and ultimately defeat Tien to advance to the semi-finals. The second match, however, was one that carried a lot of weight. It was Wonder Woman versus Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was not too fond of Diana, primarily being of how close she was getting to Goku, as Chi-Chi made it very clear that Goku had promised to marry her. However, Diana would point out that Goku probably wouldn't want that. Chi-Chi, however, took this to heart, as she didn't like the idea of this new girl stealing her Goku away from her. She would look to Goku in the crowd and yell for him, telling him that he had made a promise to her, almost throwing a tantrum in a way. Goku spoke through the crowd. He eventually made his way to the stage, as he tried to explain to Chi-Chi that back then, he didn't know what marriage was, and now that he knows what it is, he can't really say that he wants to marry her. It just wasn't something that he wanted to do. Chi-Chi, however, would have a fit. She would be enraged, wondering what this new girl would have that she didn't. She then vowed that if she won, she and Goku were going to get married, and that was going to be that. Diana didn't take too kindly to those words. The announcer would yell for the match to begin, and Chi-Chi would let out a flurry of offense. Although in the grand scheme of things, it really didn't do much of anything. Diana basically being on the back foot for the entire fight, in a way of not wanting to try to hurt Chi-Chi too much. But eventually she had enough, and with one graceful push of energy, Chi-Chi would be sent flying out of the arena, although a little more harshly than when Goku did it. Chi-Chi, however, would stand on her feet, angered at her loss, wishing that she could have had another chance to win. As she looked towards Diana defiantly, Chi-Chi vowed that she would one day beat her, and that Goku would see that she was the better choice. Chi-Chi storming off from the arena in anger. She would find power, one way or another. She had heard about this famed sorceress. She lived in the desert. Maybe if she could find her, she could gain some power. Power to defeat Wonder Woman. In the meantime, the tournament would continue. Piccolo Jr. would still go on to defeat Krillin, and Hero, who was Kami possessing a human body, would defeat Yamcha. With the 4 semi-finalists now set, the next match would see Goku versus Wonder Woman. A rematch from the finals of last year, one that everybody was anticipating. The two had been looking forward to this fight for a while, as they both knew that only one could advance to the finals this time around. This left them a little bummed out, since they were hoping they could have a finals rematch, but instead, they would just have to make the most of their fight here. Deciding that they were just going to have to go all out, Wonder Woman would remove her bracelets, and Goku kept his weighted clothing off, and the two of them moved in a flurry. A flash of orange and blue and a flash of red, gold, and blue, as the two of them collided in the center of the ring. It was definitely a testament to their training, as both Roshi and Hippolyta watched as their precious students, and almost children in a way, for Hippolyta, that was her daughter, as the two of them competed. They get flashbacks of a sense, remembering themselves in their younger years, and seeing that in the young warriors that fought now. When it came to overall strength, Diana held the slight advantage, but Goku more than made up for it with his speed. If Diana had the power, then Goku was just simply faster. As they continued on in their fight, the crowd was in awe of what they were watching. Goku would attempt to use the Kamehameha wave, while Diana would use the Amazon Slash, the two attacks colliding in the center of the ring before they continued their bout once more. The fighting continued on, and many were impressed with what they were seeing. As for Goku and Diana, they had been through this time and time again. But even still, Goku had a few tricks up his sleeve, as he didn't feel like losing this time around. For one thing, when it came to Diana and her ki blast, because they weren't as strong, sometimes they could be a little off course. Goku took advantage of this. As she went to throw another ki attack, Goku at the last moment would grab it in midair before flinging it right back at her with a lot more ferocity. Like catching a baseball and then beaming it right back at your opponent. Diana, with no choice, would raise her arms to block it. But that moment that her vision was obscured, Goku would lower himself before delivering a mule kick to her gut, sending her flying and almost knocking her out of the arena. Except for one fact. Diana could fly, and Goku, even after this time, unfortunately, he could not. Now, with Diana making her way back down to the ground once again, Goku noted that that was going to be a tricky thing to combat. So he decided he was just going to have to keep her on the ground at all times, as the two engage once more. As they continued in their battle, Diana would try to take her advantage to the sky, but Goku was counting on it. He focused his ki into his feet as he signaled for the Kamehameha. Only this time, he was actually making two mini Kamehameha waves propel him into the air from his feet. He knew that by doing this, he wouldn't be able to use any ki blasts in the sky, as he was essentially using his feet to make two of them to keep him afloat. But still, this gave him temporary flight, and it gave him enough time to do battle. With that, the two of them would continue their fight into the sky above. However, in this area of expertise, Diana would have the advantage. As Goku tried, he would look to land some devastating blows, as everyone watched on, Piccolo Jr. included. However, eventually, Goku's quick wit would be his own downfall. You see, using this makeshift way of flying took a lot of energy out of him, a lot faster. Ultimately, as the two of them went crashing back into the ground once more, landing back in the arena, Goku could feel that he was reaching his limit. Diana and Goku would go in for one final flurry, Goku attempting to push her out of the ring at all costs. Only this time, he was going to try to take it to the next level. Waiting for his moment to strike, as Goku signaled for another Kamehameha wave, Diana would instead use the Amazon Slash once more. As the two attacks collided with one another, Goku would look through the fog and through the smoke to see if he could find his opponent. However, before he had gotten a chance, Diana would deliver a devastating kick to his stomach, knocking him out of the ring. Once again, Goku had lost to her, and now she was making her way to the finals. Of course, Goku was bummed out that he had lost, since he had been giving it his all this time around. This was to show how thin the edge was between both Diana and between Goku. Perhaps if he learned to fly, the next time around things might be a bit different. And even Diana would have to agree. She knew it took a lot more for her to get the win this time around than it did last time. In fact, it was only because Goku had pulled that little stunt of trying to self-fly him in the air that had even given her the chance to win. He simply tired himself out. With few more training, Goku would definitely catch her in no time, and she was aware of this. But still, she would help Goku up, as Goku shook her hand and wished her good luck in the finals. Diana thanked him, and she promised that they would have their rematch again. Maybe at the 24th Tenkaichi Budokai. And Goku agreed, as the two of them shook on it. With Goku now bounced out of the semifinals once again, it meant that last year's winner was going to get a chance to defend her title. And who was her opponent going to be? Well, it would be none other than Piccolo Jr. Just as in the original, Piccolo Jr. would have fought against Hero, aka Kami. Kami, still sensing some evil within Piccolo Jr., attempted to seal him away in the evil containment wave. However, the technique was turned back and as a result, Kami was sealed inside of a tiny gourd that Piccolo Jr. took and swallowed. Now he was advancing to the final round between Wonder Woman and Piccolo Jr., or Junior as he was called, as not to give too much panic to the crowd. So you're the one that killed my father. Now my chance for retribution is upon me. Diana could feel the negativity coming from him, but it was much different than what she could have imagined. Mainly because of one key factor. That being that Piccolo Jr. didn't come off as nearly as evil as some might have expected. Anyway, the battle would now begin as the two warriors took their place. They wasted no time in an exchange of combat, Goku and the others watching on as the finals were now set to begin. For Diana, her natural raw strength was something that Piccolo was becoming painfully aware of. She didn't have much when it came to attacks or different techniques, but when it came to raw power and to throwing fists, she was definitely not someone to be taken lightly or to be underestimated. Seeing as how every time her fist met with his face, he found his head ringing. Of course, though, Piccolo Jr. was not one that would be standing idle. No, he had some of his own attacks, some that he hoped to use to outmatch her in terms of power, such as using his giant form, growing 4 times in size, and trying to squash her under his foot like a bug. However, Diana, using her pure strength, was actually able to hold up his foot and push him back to the ground, before flying high into the air and then crashing right back down head first, knocking him in the gut in his giant form and causing him to spit out the bile that had Kami inside. The two continued their fight once again, trading fists left and right. As the battle continued, Diana could feel that this was more than just a fight. She felt as though that Piccolo might be someone worth saving. As they continued on, she would try to speak to him. "Junior, please listen to me. I don't think you're evil. At least, not like how your father was." "And just what do you know about me, princess? I am the son of the Demon King. I have always been evil. But that's not it. Kami told me and Goku about you 3 years ago. For 3 years, we watched over you. If you were truly as evil as you claim, why go through fighting in this tournament? And even so, not once have you killed anyone." Are you forgetting? Or has Kami not told you? Told what? That he and I are connected. We are one and the same. If I were to die, so would Kami, and vice versa. Along with that, your precious little Dragon Balls would be gone too. How do you know that I am not evil, but that I merely use this to my advantage? You didn't kill Krillin in the first round either. A mere bug? That's not worth my time. And in the preliminaries? Again, weaklings. They don't deserve to die at my hands. And what about the rest of the Earth? You wish to conquer it. Why waste your time in this stupid tournament? Even as we speak, you could have allowed us all to fight and tire ourselves out, and then pick us off for the winning. That was something that Piccolo could not dispute. Was she right? Was he really not as evil as he thought he was? He ignored these sentiments, instead focusing on the one thing that mattered, trying to win. The stadium was almost all but destroyed, only the arena being left. everyone watching on as the final battle was making its way. The two readied themselves for a final attack. As Piccolo raised both of his arms, he attempted to use the Masenko, while Diana would power everything she had into using her ultimate attack, the Amazon Slash. The two attacks would collide with one another in the center of the arena, the two forces molding and colliding, as both participants were pretty much spent of energy. Now, it was simply a matter of which one would overpower the other, almost in a similar way to how the battle ended between Goku and Diana 3 years ago. As the battle raged on, it eventually came to an end, when eventually, Diana's Amazon Slash would cut through the Masenko, colliding with Piccolo's chest and knocking him out of the arena. The announcer giving the victory to Wonder Woman, who was now a back-to-back World Martial Arts Champion. Goku and the others raced on in approval, making sure to give Diana a Senzu Bean so she could recover after a long and grueling bout. As the fight had now come to an end, they looked over to the now beaten and battered Piccolo Jr. Kami had moved over, looking to take his life once and for all. However, Diana would stop him. "Wait, Kami, you don't have to do it. I don't think he's evil." "But Diana, how can you be sure? How do we know that?" "I'll show you." Diana took out the lasso of truth as she wrapped it around Piccolo's arms. Piccolo, now being held in place, would look up as he saw Diana standing before him. "Tell me, are you truly evil?" "What kind of question is that?" "The lasso of truth commands you to speak, and to speak truthfully. You cannot lie." Piccolo tried his best to come up with an answer. Was he truly evil? He wanted to say yes, but he couldn't. He knew he couldn't. As much as he wanted to, he could not speak those words out of his mouth. "But what does this mean?" "I know I'm evil, but your heart does not allow you to be." "Piccolo, I'm not saying that you have to be my friend. You don't have to get along with any of us. But at the very least, you owe it to yourself not to be bound by the whims of your father. You are not him. You are yourself. You are free to do as you wish." She let Piccolo Jr. go and took a Senzu Bean from Goku, giving it to him. As he ate it and gained his strength, he stood as he fixed his clothing. The truth was out, and he could no longer deny it. As he looked towards Diana and then towards Goku, he simply grunted as he flew off, but he turned around as he answered to the princess. "You and I will fight again. In 3 years' time." "Really?" "The 24th. I'll see you there." And with that, Piccolo would fly off. The challenge had been thrown, and now it looked as though they had something else to prepare for. But before all of that, Goku would be standing behind Diana as she looked to see him. Goku? What's the matter?" "Oh, well, I was waiting for your answer." "My answer?" "Yeah, I mean, you are the one that won the tournament after all. You were going to ask something of me? What is it?" Oh, that. Oh, uh, everyone else would watch on as Diana was a bit nervous. She pulled Goku off to the side so as to give them a little bit of privacy, standing behind the rubble of the arena that had pretty much been destroyed. Um, Goku, yeah? Um, you know what marriage is now, right? Well, yeah, it's when a boy and a girl live together for the rest of their lives. Yeah, well, I've enjoyed spending time with you these last 3 years. I feel like I've really gotten to know you. Yeah, I've gotten to know you too. A lot better, actually. Exactly. And I was just wondering, would it be okay if I wanted to keep living with you? Hmm. You mean you want to marry me? Wait, you actually understand? Well, yeah, I'm not dumb. I mean, I don't really have any times of education or anything. Didn't really go to school. But I've learned enough to know what marriage is and what it isn't, and it's not food. Honestly, I've kind of been thinking the same. You have? I mean, I didn't want to bother you with it because we were having so much fun training. But even still, I was wondering if maybe you'd want to stay with me a bit longer. I mean, we could keep training and, well, Goku was a bit shy. Again, Goku didn't fully understand emotions and everything in that regard. If you think that Goku was suddenly going to become the lovey-dovey husband type, no, he's nothing like that. But he's not a fool either. He had spent 3 years of his life training with someone who had understood him, someone who connected with him in a way. And now he was getting a chance to keep that going with someone. Before long, eventually, the time would come as the others would see the two walk from behind the rubble. And Goku bluntly announced that he and Diana were gonna get married. Of course, everyone had a very shocked look on their face, Hippolyta being the most shocked of all of them. No Amazonian woman had ever married a man. It was something that had never been done. But she could see the happiness on her daughter's face. And who was she to deny her that? Of course, Hippolyta wouldn't agree to this so easily, as she looked towards her daughter with a stern face. What you're doing goes against years of tradition, Diana. This isn't something that we can accept and take so lightly. I understand, Mother. I'll do whatever it takes, but this is something that I really want. And do you understand that by doing this, you also forsake your right to the throne? When you live off of the island of paradise, you are not protected by its powers. Even if it is slow, you will eventually age and die. The power of youth and immortality will no longer be yours. I'm fine with that. Really, I am. Hippolyta simply smiled. All right. If I am to allow this, then you must pass a test. And what might that be? Simple. You will have to defeat me in combat to earn your freedom to marry Son Goku. Everyone was now in even more shock. For Diana to marry Goku, she'd have to defeat her own mother in combat. However, Diana simply grinned as she looked towards her. It's a deal. With that, The preparations would begin for the combat. Diana was now prepared. For her to move into her future, she would have to conquer the past that was her mother. This concludes What If Wonder Woman Was in Dragon Ball? Dragon Ball World's Strongest, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Naruto Polaris, What If Hanabi Hyuga Was Born First, Part 5. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.